Welcome to the Active Podcast. I'm your host, Ian, and joining me today for the first time as a co-host is Keith Davies. How are you doing, Keith?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Pleased to be on the show.
Yeah, so let me just bring the listeners up to date a little bit about you. You're a surfer, like me, a surfer, of course, and you're also, you've been in Japan, wow, close on 40 years now, I guess. So I guess you must have come here when you were about like 2, something like that.
Yeah. I wish that was true. I think I was probably 4 because I started reading when I was 3 and sort of being able to get myself around and get pretty independent when I was about 3. So
and doing aerials.
We'll stick with those numbers as far as age and everything is concerned.
Yeah, okay. And I've been here 20 years, so I came here at about 10. So
yeah, makes us the same age.
Yeah, let's stick with those numbers. And you've lived in various places, and one of the places that you've lived for a long time is the Olympic surfing beach, which is what our main thing that we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, let me just say that at the moment you're, as well as being a surfer, you're a professional rugby coach, and you're up in Kamaishi. For those that don't know, which was very sadly one of the main places that was devastated by the 2011 tsunami. I just wanted to ask you, how is the area rebounding from that devastation?
Yeah, well, again, there are a few famous, a few cities, I suppose, that were actually in the news as places that got major devastation during after the earthquake, like Fukushima. Kamaishi was one, but all down the eastern seaboard of Japan was affected in some way. So it's something, even down in Chiba where the Olympics is going to be. There's basically there were 2 or 3 years where very few surfers were going along and people staying out of the water. So it really scared quite a lot of people. But up here in Kamaishi, there's a couple of World Cup rugby games coming here in November. October when the tournament starts. A couple of pool games. There's a new ground being built just around the corner from where I actually live now. I'm actually in Uno-Samai, which is one of the places that just got completely flattened.
That when we see that video, the famous video of the water coming over the harbour and just coming up the valley and wiping out everything, your house is actually rebuilt on that flatland, isn't
that
it?
area? Yeah.
And
so there's actually, if you actually look online at some of the aerial photos of Uno-Samai, there's actually some now of where they've rebuilt and the new construction that's gone on. But basically, anyone who's familiar, I mean, we're talking surfing, so anyone who's familiar with how, like, for example, riverboards work, then if you look at places like Kamaishi and up here in northeast Japan, you'll see that there are a lot of inlets that are a perfect scenario to create this rising wave, a tsunami, that comes in and just gets compressed into a smaller and smaller area, and it's got nowhere to go but up. So you have quite a few of the inlets and a few of the areas up here that actually suffered from that phenomenon, and so you have this wave going upriver, obviously. But yeah, where I surf up here locally. The beach up here was completely devastated, just all the sand, everything gone. But yeah, people are bouncing back. It's just amazing. As I say, if you look at some of the photographs now of the rebuilding, you can see the new rugby ground and where the school was. The ground is actually built on the school that was devastated, yes. Junior high school. That school is now up on the hill, a brand new school. We do some PR events up there sometimes with our rugby team and stuff. So yeah, it's a great place. Beautiful, clean water. It's a bit cold in the winter, but a dry suit sort of sorts that out.
And they have wonderful spirit up there, don't they?
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, Kamaishi is known as a rugby town. They once won the All Japan Championship 7 years on the trot. The team has had fluctuating fluctuating results over the last few years. But I arrived here in March, and I've loved it up here. It's just there's no McDonald's, there's no Starbucks, there's no fast food outlets. There's nothing apart from local food supermarkets and yeah, because everything got flattened.
Yeah.
You know?
So finally, you're losing weight.
Yeah, trying to. But yeah. So it's well, when you're 40, it's pretty difficult. You know?
Yeah.
So no, but yeah, it's great up here. I really enjoy it. I get when I've got time off, I get back down because I've actually got a log cabin down just around the corner from Shida.
Yes.
Shida, where the Olympics is going to be. So yeah, I get down there because it's a bit warmer and surf down there sometimes. So
yeah, well, I'm hoping you're going to invite me down for those for the Olympic event, and we can sit on your veranda and with a few beers and watch the event without buying.
Yeah, that should be good. Yeah, it's going to be hot that time of year, so you'll need to bring that cap.
Yeah, this is for the listeners. You can't see it, but I'm wearing an ISA World Contest hat from last year because I was down at the event. As I said, you're based a lot of the time at the Olympic surfing beach in Shida, yeah. And I'm based down in Aichi-ken, and where we held the ISA World Contest last year, 2018. So that's my local beach, and we were lucky. It was like going off last year for the World Contest. I was supporting the British team down there, and the banks were just really working well. It was about 6 foot plus, and people doing aerials and getting barreled, and that wasn't. This is what brings me into it. That wasn't unusual because that last season was like that a lot. But I watch a lot of the podcasts. I'm a great fan of a lot of the podcasts out there, the surfing podcasts. The guys are really knowledgeable. They're great fun, the podcasts. But there does seem to be a misconception running throughout all of the podcasts and all of the hosts and the guests about Japan and the surf in Japan, because every podcast I hear, they're saying, well, that the Olympics are going to be in Japan. You know what that means? It's going to be 1 foot on shore. It's the summer. It's the wrong season. There aren't going to be the waves. And a lot of very knowledgeable people are misinformed because that's what they're saying on the podcast. So I was hoping today that us as locals, we can put, especially you, because you live on that beach, we can put the record straight and tell people what it's really like in Japan. So let's start with Japan first of all, because let's talk about the seasons, because it might be summer season, but it's a really important season from a wave point of view, isn't it?
Yes. Well, the thing with Chiba, where the Olympic surfing is going to be, is that it's probably one of the most consistent areas in Japan for surf, because it's on the elbow of where the south swells come in, and in the winter you get the northerly swells. So you've got two really strong swell directions. In the summer, moving towards the autumn, you have the typhoon swells. I mean, we've already had a couple of typhoons come through Japan this year already. We're in middle of July. So the important thing to remember about the surf on this eastern seaboard is that it's actually quite consistent, and on any one day it could be completely off its face, 10 foot plus, or it could be ripples. But I mean, I live in on the Gold Coast in Australia, and it's the same whenever I go to Burleigh. It can be off its face, or sometimes it's flat. Yeah, Burleigh Head's where I live.
In Florida, I was reading an article this morning. They've had their longest flat spell ever. For the last couple, since the middle of May, it's been flat, completely flat.
Yeah.
And when you talk about Florida, you think, great waves, but no, there's been absolutely no waves. So it can be flat anywhere. That's the point, isn't it? That's the one point.
That's the point. And the key thing, I think the key thing to remember is that, like the WSL, for example, they realized a few years back that if you arrange a contest to run on a certain day or a certain weekend, there's a good chance that you're going to get crap conditions. You know, I talked to a lot of surfers back home who were on the circuit and things like that, who walked away from the circuit basically because they wanted to surf good waves. You know, that any one day in a contest, they might be surfing 1 foot mush, whereas around the corner, it's offshore and it's, you know, a 2 or 3 foot bigger. So one thing that the WSL did that has, in my opinion, has drastically changed how surfing is perceived is that they've had a big window. They've opened up a big waiting period, okay, for any contest to run. And even if the contest starts, they have lay days. So over a 2-week period, pretty much wherever you go in the world, you're guaranteed to get some of the swell magnets. You're pretty well guaranteed to get good waves, some good waves. Yeah. If you could choose your days. The problem with the Olympics, as far as I know, is that there's only a 3-day waiting period, 3-day window.
Actually, I think it's an 8-day window.
8 days. Okay.
Yeah, 8 days to run 4 days of contest.
Right. Okay.
So that's
again, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. I mean, I would say that in Chiba, at this time of year, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to get good surfable waves over that period.
Actually, we are recording this on the day that the Olympic event starts next year, July 26th.
Yeah.
So
so at the moment, I think I sent you a photograph earlier on today that you might use for reference, and it was about 1 foot offshore, clean, but 1 foot, very small. Whereas I sent you a photograph yesterday of the same day 6 years ago, and it was 4 or 5 foot offshore, clean, great waves.
And
so again,
we have a typhoon coming in now, so it's coming up on the east side, and the Magic Seaweed swell report is like for tomorrow. In my area, 6 to 10 feet. And that's pushing up then towards Chiba over the next few days, which is in the contest window. So,
that's right.
I mean, of course, this is real time. This is now. But if it happens this year, it could happen next year. Just to give you some stats on last year, actually, Owen, we had 29 storms, 13 typhoons, 7 super typhoons, and all in all, an above average number of typhoons for last year. And that seems to be the trend, that there are more and more typhoons. They're coming earlier in the year, and they're more powerful. So when people say it's summer season over here, what they don't realize is it's typhoon season. And this is when we get our best waves. This is why Japan is so great, because we get the sunshine and we get the waves at the same time. And
well, the good thing about the typhoons at this time of year is that they don't tend to come as far north as the ones later in the year. So what they do is they come up and they skirt around Japan. They either go west or they go east and fade out into the ocean. And so you actually get the benefit of the waves, but without getting the big strong winds and rain.
Yes.
So this time of year, you could actually get classic waves, they'll forecasters obviously will be keeping their eye on that, and they'll have an idea of what's coming and what the potential is. So
and looking at Tsurigasaki Beach, which we call Shida as a short nickname, that's the main beach that is going to be set up on. Now your log cabin is pretty much on that beach,
it's about 2 kilometers away, so it's on the same road. There's basically one road that services the whole area, and there are beaches all along that stretch. So most of the surfers tend to congregate around where some of the big shops are, and they surf in front of those. But you've got a series of groins and tetrapod piers that are set up along the beach, and it breaks it up so you get lefts and rights peeling off those. So
So I was
my
going to ask you, yeah, I was going to ask you about the types of the swell it catches, the types of breaks that are there. Are they lefts? Are they rights? Are they points? What can we really expect along that beach area?
Well, particularly Shida. Shida is actually, as you go down the small road that leads down to Shida towards the beach, it's actually, you've got a groin to the right and a groin to the left. And there's there's a center area, the middle area there, where they usually actually craft some sand into there. They dump sand during the low tide, and that creates some banks. They've done it the last couple of times with the WQS, because there's a 6,000 WQS contest that's there every year.
Yeah.
So by putting some sand into certain areas, and I think they do this at all the contests now, it makes sure that there's decent banks out there for the duration of the contest. So you can, depending on the size of the waves that are coming in and the size of the swell, you'll be getting good rights off the groin, or peeling both ways from the middle. So you've got potential for people to go left or right, depending on where they choose to sit on the day.
And that area catches swell from various directions. You told me before, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Well, like I say, that Chiba is just on the sort of southeastern corner of Japan before it starts to go down down south. So it will benefit from any northerly depressions, any northerly swells, as well as the southerly typhoon swells that tend to come in at this time of year. So,
yeah. So I was thinking about one of my friends. He has a ticket for the Olympic surfing.
yeah.
Logistically, how are they going to section it off for people with tickets to watch the event, as opposed to you and I just go and sit up on the car park wall behind and watch it?
Well,
Any idea how
they've started to work on all the logistics, even with the last WQS, the last couple of WQS times. There's temporary seating going in, and basically the car parks are all closed off from the road.
Yeah.
Where Shida is, where it's based, is from the beach right back to the main access road. There's about 200 meters of scrubland.
Right.
So the road is not a beach road as such.
Right.
Okay. While the beach goes along, the road goes along parallel to the beach, but there's a 200-meter divide of bushland and just sort of sand dunes between the beach and the road. So they basically cordon all of that off. They fence all of that off. Certain areas will be used for car parking or whatever, and then there'll be a restricted area where you'll be able to go to your seats, to your ticketed seats. So even at the moment, when there's a contest on with the WQS, for example, you can't park your car down there unless it's an official car park. And while they don't charge people to go into the WQS, they're starting to now refine their arrangements for the Olympics there. So all of the area around there is being landscaped out so that they'll be able to put the temporary seating in and things like that, to make a viewing area.
And how logistically then, how mobile are they likely to be able to be? And if the swell was a little bit better on Kaito Beach, are they going to be able to move at all or not?
Not really. No. This is one of the things. I mean, from Shida is a beach break, obviously, but from there down south of there, you've got places like Matsubei, Hebara, where they used to run the some of the surfers out there who've previously surfed in like the Maui Pro or whatever, something like that, might remember Hebara. Places like Malibu, where if there's a typhoon, they're just unbelievable waves, just fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's there's not going to be any contingency to move there if it's too big.
No.
Yeah.
But with 8 days in, we're hoping that there'll be some typhoon swell lurking around that should produce some good waves.
Yeah, I think it's Shida can't really handle big waves because they'll all come in just too straight.
Right.
But yeah, it will be a good competitive wave if there's it's a good wave to compete on, I think, because it will challenge surfers who are going to have to be prepared to surf smaller waves or bigger waves, which all the top surfers can do now anyway on any particular day.
Well, what can it sort of what swell size can it handle up to and still hold its shape?
I'd say about 6 foot.
Yeah.
6 foot. Any bigger than that, and it starts to just, I don't know. It just mixes up a bit too much. There's not really any defined wave there that you could say, right, it's going to be breaking everywhere. One of the things about Shida around that area is that there's a very it's not a deepening shelf,
right,
that comes from the beach. What happens is that from the beach you get some depth in the water, and then the water stays at the same depth for about 300 or 400 meters out into the ocean.
right.
So the waves come in and they hit a bit of a barrier, and then they start traveling across this shallower area. So if it gets too big, you get waves breaking really 200, 300, 400 meters offshore.
Yeah.
That might then reform, but it doesn't. It's not like a good deep water wave where, like for example, if you were watching J Bay last week, then you would see that waves come in. It's a point break, so it's just going to come in. The waves will build, they break, and you can surf those. The waves at Shida are not like that when the bigger swells come in.
Right.
So it's breaking all over the place.
Yeah.
So that would be a concern if it was getting sort of out of control with a big typhoon swell, and especially if it's onshore and windy. So.
Yeah. Right. I mean, the ISA have said categorically that the contest is going to happen in the sea, which is what we all want to happen. But do you think there should be a backup wave pool in Tokyo or somewhere as an emergency backup if there's no swell?
Well, I don't know if they'd be able to get one in there quickly enough now anyway. But look, I mean, they made the decision that it was going to be based in natural waves, and I suppose they just have to stick with that plan.
Yeah.
Wave pools give you that contingency, I suppose, but with a waiting period of 8 days, I think it'd be very, very unlucky not to score any surfable waves in that window.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
I mean, the Japanese, I mean, one thing that we do know, having lived here so long, is that they know how to put on a contest, a competition, be it rugby or surfing, whatever. Their attention to detail in organizing the events is second to none. So that's the one good thing. In fact, I was reading that they ran a test contest. I think it was last weekend. I don't know if you saw that at Shida Beach. 20 top, all Japanese surfers, 20 top Japanese surfers, 20 top men, 20 top women. And they ran it off under the Olympic format. And they practiced the format at the actual beach. So they rehearsed it, so as to speak, at the same time of the year. The waves were, I think, something like 2 to 4 feet, sort of waist, shoulder height. And contestable, and it went well. Interestingly, they had round one had 4-man heats, round 2 somehow had 5-man heats, and then the rest were man on man. So that seems to be the format they might be going with. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, the interesting thing, of course, is that they've actually got the Japanese, up-and-coming Japanese surfers, basically athletes who are targeted to be in the fold for selection next year, surfing regularly at that beach.
Right.
So that local knowledge and that local appreciation of the variety of waves that come in there is going to be really important, I think, when it comes to competition on sort of live competition.
Yeah.
And they're running high performance camps there and having those athletes stay in the area, even though they're coming from all over Japan.
Yeah.
So,
I think Japanese surfers are going to have a big advantage because of what you just said. And also in Japan, the Japanese surfers actually do have a lot of confidence. And last year at the World Contest, the ISA World Contest, Japan won the Team Cup for the first time. And Igarashi was second, and Shun Murakami was third. So they had like 2 Japanese surfers in the final, and they won the team event as well in pumping waves down at my place here. So plus the home support, it's got to count for something. So Japan is going to be a force to be reckoned with in those kind of waves. Last week's event was won by Hiroto Ohara, who won the Vans US Open. Was it last year? The waves.
There are a few coming through.
Sorry?
There are a few coming through, particularly in the men. I think the women are still they're still lacking the power of their overseas sort of counterparts at the moment. They tend to be I think the women tend to be very robotic in their style because they're all learning the same way of surfing waves. And so you can see a very robotic kind of, just everything they do, whether it's off the lip, the way they use their arms, the way they're moving into turns, etc., is all quite regimented. And so, but whereas the men they're getting into because they're small and generally very, very flexible, from which most Japanese are anyway. Then I think they're making big inroads into the surfing. They'll be making big inroads into the professional surfing arena over the next few years.
Well, as you know, we're in the middle of the Brazilian storm at the moment. But the word amongst the grapevine is the next one is the Japanese storm. So I wonder if that is a possibility. I mean, Japan has the money. They have the people. I mean, they got the Igarashi tsunami coming, so that's going to be a big thing as well. And we've got the infrastructure and the money over here. I wonder if there will be a Japanese storm coming in the next few years at pro level.
Well, I think it's interesting because someone like me who goes to the beach regularly, you're surfing and you're talking to people. There are actually a lot of really well-off middle-aged surfers. You probably see it where you are now, who are making this pilgrimage to the beach every weekend, whether they're based in Tokyo, Osaka. They're all turning up in Mercedes and BMWs and high-end converted mini mobile homes, high-ace, the Toyota high-ace trucks, and they've got kids that are coming through and starting to surf as well. So all of these kids are getting access to training, to beach time, to time in the water, to good tuition. There are a lot more surfing schools sort of sprouting up around Japan. So this image of surfing in Japan as a really cool and clean sport, actually, is a really big one for me. I think for the Japanese public in general. So more and more surfers are coming to the beach. They have access with better roads and let's face it, cheaper equipment for beginners. with sort of pre-constructed boards and things like that. So it's becoming a sport now in Japan it's really putting itself on the map. And people like Igarashi and whatever now being part of the WSL, he's massive, yeah. And the other surfers as well.
He's going to be the next Japanese sporting superstar. I think he's already getting there. He's on the TV all the time.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, if he does well in the Olympics, it's just going to go through the roof.
Yeah.
But,
well, one of the things with Japan is very similar to the States anywhere, I suppose, in that the Olympics is still seen as the pinnacle of sporting success for many athletes in many sports. So even in tennis circles, top professionals who wanted to play in the Olympics once it was allowed. And now with this opportunity with the Olympics, it will be the first ever Olympic medal in surfing on offer. And I imagine that there's a few even aging top surfers out there, there's a lot of speculation whether Kelly Slater will be coming over and that sort of stuff. So
I had that written in my notes here, actually, the Kelly factor, because how important do we think it would be to actually have Kelly at the very first Olympics? From a marketing point of view, because he's Kelly Slater, I mean.
Yeah. Look, I think personally, I don't know what Kelly Slater would be thinking at the moment, or anyone in his position, but I don't think he would be in it purely for a marketing point of view. If he thought he could win it, he's going to be in it.
Yeah.
He's that sort of an athlete, I think. So, but I think Kelly Slater will be there in some capacity, whether it's as a mentor to other surfers as part of a team, because it's a team event.
Yeah.
And when they've run some of the contests at the Surf Ranch, there have been some team events there when they had the World Team Challenge or whatever it was called. So he's going to be there in some capacity, I would imagine. And the American team is going to be a really strong one.
Yeah.
He's
ranked number 3 at the moment. When I say ranked number 3, to be in the American Olympic team. So I think you've got Andino, you've got John Florence, who's out of the water injured, and you've got Kelly, who's next. So actually, if John doesn't go, Kelly would be in the team. However, the rankings could change over the next half of the season. But he's got a real chance of being in the team. And if he's not, as you say, I think he should be there, because he's so
well. He's the face of surfing for many people, and one of the reasons why surfing has come to the forefront, of course. So you have this top group of surfers who have done so much for the sport commercially, to bring it up to where it is at the moment, and that's one of the reasons why it actually got into the Olympics in the first place. Of course, unless there's a reason for a sport to be in the Olympics, there are lots of sports that get cut, that are brought in. Rugby sevens, for example, has only recently been admitted to the Olympic arena. So it's not as if this is something that's happened really suddenly. It's taken a long time to get surfing, judging, obviously, consistency in judging and scoring and things like that all come into play before you can actually have the sport accredited for Olympic competition.
Yeah. Actually, that's another discussion for another podcast, is judging, because I think they're going to be using a different judging scheme for the Olympics, an ISA one as opposed to a CT one, WSL one, which we don't know much about at the moment. But in a future podcast, maybe we can chat about that. The other thing we talked about was getting was it Uwasa-san onto the podcast? Uzawa-san, who's part of, tell me again, he's part of the administration committee for...
Yeah, well, Uzawa, he's a local down there at Shida. His shop is based, he's got a shop down in Chiba. I can't think of the name of the shop at the moment. It'll come to me in 2 minutes. Yeah, he's been one of the guys down there who's a key driver has been a key driver in getting the Olympics to Chiba and getting it to Shida. I think he's recently been elected into some political role in the area. So as far as, the town council and planning department and that sort of stuff. So yeah, he actually imports some boards from Australia, navigators and things like that. So he's well known. He's well known down there. There are all the major brands have shops down there.
Yeah.
CHP, HIC. My cabin is right next to the HIC shop. Sequence. There's all of the big brands obviously have got shops down there because it's one of Japan's biggest surfing areas.
Yeah. Well, so just to let the viewers know that we're going to try and get some of these guys on the show, and we're going to talk to them in Japanese.
Yeah.
Get the story from the horse's mouth. Then we'll come back on and we'll review it back to the listeners in English because they won't understand the Japanese, and we'll let them know what those guys actually said. So we're getting it from the horse's mouth because those guys are there. They're part of the organizing committee. So that should be good.
Well, Uzawa-san can maybe give us a bit of a lead into how it all happened, how the bid process worked, and things like that. People getting insight into that, but also he will have up-to-date information on how all the organisation is going and what the challenges have been in actually getting this event up and running as the local organizer.
Yeah, good. All right, that sounds good. We've got a lot to talk about over the next 12 months. So we'll start to flesh it out and get into a bit more detail as we get closer. For today, we just wanted to talk about the main location for the Olympic beach, and we've done that, and the typhoons and the season and the wave patterns. So I hope we've made it clear for the listeners exactly what the situation is over here.
Well, look, I first surfed down in Chiba in 1982 when I first came to Japan. So it is almost 40 years ago.
Mm.
And I've been either surfing in Chiba, Ibaraki, all the way up here on that eastern seaboard, Fukushima, around that area for years and years. And one of the reasons I've always tried to be based in this area on the eastern coast is because it gets quite consistent waves.
Yeah. So
I think the expectation or the fallacy that it might be dead flat for days and days and days. I personally have never seen that in any. It might be a couple of days where you can't go surfing, but I've never seen that personally. That from week to week I haven't been able to surf in this area.
That's right. Yeah. I check the webcams every day, and there's always a wave. There's something there. It's rideable every day almost.
Yeah.
So what are you riding?
The forecasters forecasters, as we said, they'll have an idea. So I think there's more room for optimism, I think, than skepticism about that. That should be our finishing point about moving forward about what's going to happen.
Yeah. Good. So the listeners always want to know what we're riding. What are you riding these days? What board are you riding?
Me, I always ride. Well, actually, over here I've got an MR Superfish that I bought from Australia with me, so I ride that sometimes. But I've also all my boards in Australia I get from Stewart on the Gold Coast there. Stewart surfboards.
What sort of dimensions?
Years and years. So
yeah, what size is your?
That's the one I've got here at the moment is a 610. It's because I'm about 97, 98 kgs at the moment, so it's pretty fat. Got some foam in it. So
the board's pretty fat.
Yeah, the board's pretty fat.
The body's pretty fat. Pure lean muscle, 90.
Yeah, that's all lean muscle. Yeah, 100 kilograms worth.
Right.
Yeah, no. So it's always been the challenge of crossing a surfing career with a rugby career. which way do you go? So try to stay somewhere in between.
Yeah, I've had the same thing all the way through. We're surfers with rugby player bodies. Sorry, with rugby player bodies on a surfboard. Yeah,
exactly.
So yeah, and
but yeah, no, and I've actually got a couple of boards that I had custom made from a guy down in Chiba, down in Taito, a good friend of mine that a lot of people who've been to Japan will know, Kenny.
All right.
Izumi. So yeah, I got a few up here, and I more and more I find myself sort of gravitating from one board to another one, trying them different boards every day at the moment, rather than just getting stuck on one board. So I quite enjoy that at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been talking about this with my mate Joe that I surf with down here, and we've been talking more and more about horses for courses, having the right board for the right waves. So a quiver of 3 boards, a short board, and then a middle-sized board, and even a long board. You can have fun if you've got the right board and the right wave. You can have fun.
Absolutely.
Because
I think even down in Chiba, I've got one down there. I've got one up here. I think every surfer out there, doesn't matter what your level, you should have a foam board somewhere in your house that you can just get on and say, right, let's go and have a laugh. Take the fin off it, go out and get on a foam board and see how fun that is. It's great fun. Yeah, slip and slide.
Did that last Sunday. Yeah, took the foamy out, and it was fun. And because I was thinking, we were looking at it last week, and we were looking at the people walking down the beach. It was a small day actually. It was only about between 2 or 3 feet, a bit gutless, and the amount of people walking down the beach with high performance short boards, and they were obviously not good surfers, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking, you're going in the water, you are not going to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we went in on our longboards. At the moment, I've got my competition board is a Japanese board, a Soul Rider SR competition longboard, and I've just bought a Brazilian index crown egg, a 6'4" egg, which is nice. So so it's
as you say, especially up here, when in the winter here, the water goes down to about 4 or 5 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's dry suit weather, and the last thing you want to do is be sitting out there on a tiny little board with smaller waves coming through and not moving around and keeping warm. So sometimes I'll, even in the winter up here, just take the foam board out and just cruise around on that. At least you're working and getting some exercise all the time. So yeah, it's a sort of been a bit of a change for me over what I used to do. But it's all about fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
All right, Keith, I think we covered most of what we wanted to chat about in this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So thanks for your input today, and see you on the next one.
Okay, cool.
Enjoy the waves, enjoy the beer, enjoy the rugby.
Yeah, well, we've got Japan playing Fiji here tomorrow, so we've got a bit of a beer garden event going on tonight, and then we'll be going to watch that game. And I actually fly back to Australia on Sunday, so I'll be in Burleigh for about 3 or 4 weeks. Burleigh Heads.
Oh, nice.
My home break. So, yeah.
Waves, yeah.
Good month coming up.
Good. Lovely. All right, thank you. All right.
Okay.
Cheers, mate. I'll see you next time.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, bye.